Okay. It is predicted that UK economy will avoid another recession in the next 2 decades, and that its population will increase significantly by 2040. Most of this predicted increase will come from immigration. By 2040, it is also expected that 1 in 12 people will be aged over 80. Okay. A number of countries, including some low income countries, may have a more rapid population growth rate than high income countries. So they're asking us about, UK economy will be basically avoiding recessions because of population increases, which basically is coming from immigration from outside. So in a way, higher immigration from outside can result in probably demand to go up, and that could be a reason why you can avoid recession. Recession basically means um, falling AD. We'll talk about this in detail when we do the question, but just to have a hang of these concepts. Okay. Um, so let's look at the first one. Identify 2 reasons why people are living longer. So, guys, 2 reasons why people are living longer. Anyone? Any guesses? Anything you feel could be the reason? Well, one of the reasons could be simply to do with you have better healthcare, like medical advancement that's taking place. That could be a reason why it is going to happen. Yeah, so advancements is exactly advancement in technology. Health technology could be one reason. It could also be because of better, like living standards. You have, like higher living standards has resulted in people to have more healthy lifestyle. Uh, like previously, a lot of times uh, people would not live longer because of the fact that the research about healthy and unhealthy wasn't there too much. So you can talk about better healthcare, um, better sort of living standards. It could also be better nutrition, like the fact that you could have. So all of these can be, and the question is about identifying. So you can just mention so better health. Somebody said advancement, so health technology, right? Also higher sort of standard of living, and so on. Okay, any questions, guys? Okay, the next one is saying analyze or explain 2 reasons why net immigration may increase standard of living. So net immigration means more people coming in, and this is more like explain questions. So you need to talk about it. You need to basically not only mention but also give reasons why. So number one, higher immigration or more people coming in means higher sort of uh, demand for goods and services, and that could also means more employment, and that could mean more income or GDP, which could lead to higher standard of living. That could be one. There could also be a reason that you can give here. So that's first one. Yeah, Siddharth, that's exactly what I was saying. Higher GDP due to more people working. Exactly. Uh, there could also be, guys. Another one you can say this that like you have um, higher higher supply of workers, and higher supply of workers could be also good. Why? Because more supply of workers would basically be useful to take care of any shortages that may take place. Like your economy may not may not otherwise be able to meet the demand. So higher supply of workers means more output can be produced, which could be leading to higher standard of living. Okay, so that could be another reason. Make sense, guys? Any other thing that can come to your mind? Remember, from the PPC perspective, we said PPC can shift to the right when there is higher quality or quantity of factors of production. So one could argue this as well, that if for example, you have more people coming in, your quantity, your um, quantity of factors of production can go up, which can make your productive potential to rise, and that can make my PPC to shift out. Our PPC can shift out because of this. Got it? So you can talk about that as well. Make sense, guys? Is there any question before we move on? Any questions?
No.
Okay. So third one, let's look at third one, which is analyze how fiscal policy could be used to stop a recession. Let's look at this part. How can fiscal policy be used to stop a recession? So when you look at fiscal policy, and by the way, let's look at the marks. The marks are 6 marks, which means an important question. How can we use fiscal policy to stop recession? So we can talk about two things first before we talk about this. Number one is that what is fiscal policy? You know, that's one thing. How does fiscal policy affect our recession to not happen? So what is fiscal policy? Number one, fiscal policy is basically when the government is using taxes and government spending to alter or change GDP of an economy. So using taxes and government spending, I'm trying to alter my GDP. How? For example, if I reduce taxes and increase government expenditure, then basically I notice that AD, aggregate demand, is C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So if G goes up, I know AD will go up, right? Also, when taxes go down, your disposable income may go up when taxes go down, and that could cause consumption to go up. So C can also go up. Make sense? Also, lower taxes on corporates can also result in investments to go up, and that means basically your AD goes up. And when my AD go up, guys, you can make this diagram here as well in this question. You can talk about how when the AD goes up, you will see a rise in GDP to happen. And that can basically make the recession to fall. So this is my real GDP. And this is my price level. Make sense, guys? So the government basically, by reducing taxes, can make people's disposable income go up. Also, I mean, honestly, in O levels, I don't think so. There's a need for making diagram, but there's no harm in making diagrams if you can make the right kind of diagram, guys. If you don't make a diagram, that's also fine. So you guys, so you need to talk about how your consumer spending may go up because of this. Also, because taxes are less, you're basically companies may want to invest more. So investment may go up. Also, the fact that government spending goes up that causes your aggregate demand to go up. So this is basically the answer for this one. So you can make the AD curve go to the right, which means you are sort of making the recession, which is falling AD, to be stopped or arrested. You slow it down. Make sense, guys? Are we good? Yeah. So is it mandatory to make the diagram? And the answer is not really, but it's recommended to make the diagram. But the right diagram, guys, it's important to make the right diagram. So does that make sense? Okay, moving on. Discuss whether or not low-income countries have a faster rate of population growth than high-income countries. So are low-income countries better off than high-income countries? So what is, I mean, do they have the faster rate of population growth than high-income countries? So this is the question that comes normally if you look at, there's a development economics chapter that you have. And it's a kind of question. So whenever you are choosing an answer to write, always read all the questions that are asked. For example, if I've chosen question number 2 to be my question, so I need to be careful whether I know everything or not. So this is like a, do you agree basically that low income countries have a faster rate of population growth than high income countries? And the answer to this one is that low income countries or poor countries may have a high birth rate. This is seen that their birth rate is high. And the reason why the birth rate is high in low income countries is primarily because women participation in labor force is low. So women participation in labor force is low, and the reason is basically probably the culture is such that women do not participate in labor force sometimes they are not as educated as the male counterparts, and therefore that could be a reason that why probably you might see high birth rate to happen. Also, there could be other reasons, like there could be lack of education or awareness. Very good, Mustafa. Lack of education could be one reason. Also, maybe due to better healthcare, one would argue this, that is overall technology in healthcare has improved. That has made probably low income countries to not have as many people dying as sort of rising sort of birth rate. So you can talk about that thing. So low income countries might have a high birth rate, might have a low death rate, and might have lower awareness. Also might have a cultural effect. That all can contribute to basically why they can have more higher population rate. Let's talk about why they may not have high why high income countries may have a high, let's say, population growth. If we assume that could be basically due to the idea that like some high income countries might expect, as the data response is telling us, immigration to happen. So that could be a reason why your population might be rising, because a lot more people might be migrating into the country. So migration could be a counter argument. Let me write this. Migration could be a counter argument here. Number one, that's the counter argument. Another counter argument to this one could be the idea that low income countries might see people going out, because a lot more people leave the country from low income and they go to high income country. Also, a lot more low income countries might have more sort of death rates because of many reasons. Like, for example, they could be suffering from um lack of technology, or high income countries might have better technology in terms of healthcare and so on and so forth. The lifestyles are different, the standard of living is high. And if you look at all of these factors together, you may argue this, that high income countries might see more population than low income countries. Okay, so that could be the only thing. One you can say, the only thing you can say, guys, which doesn't work in the favor of high income countries, is this, that because of more awareness, also because of um, sort of more education, the birth rate is definitely low. So that's one argument you can say goes against it. Are we good? Does that make sense? So if I could quickly go over this, basically the idea is this: they're saying whether or not low-income countries have a faster rate, and the answer is they might have a faster rate of population growth because the birth rate is really high. Also, the death rate is now, with the technology, is not going too low. Also, the idea is this, that um, there is with the low-income countries, you might argue this, that because of culture and because of a lack of education, they might uh, they might support having more kids. Like developed countries may have maximum 2 children. In poor countries, that cultural thing is not there. They may prefer to have more kids. Make sense? So in the other points, which is basically, does high income countries have higher population? You can say there could be an argument where a lot of people are migrating into the country from low to high, so they might have more. Also, the death rates are really, really low because of the better technology. Also, one could argue this, that although the birth rate might be low, but despite that, you might still see that the improved healthcare infrastructure may not let the population growth rate to go down. Make sense? So in this question, give 4 points for and 4 points kind of against. Okay. Okay, I want to move on to the next question now. Number three. Number three says, in 2015, the Malaysian government set out its objectives to increase productivity and savings. There has been higher consumer expenditure, driven in part by higher wages received mainly by older workers. However, low levels of savings remain a concern. Savings provide funds for investments, which contributes to economic growth and can influence inflation. So we're looking at this question, guys. Okay. Identify 2 ways government could encourage saving. What do you guys think are the 2 ways the government can encourage saving? Anyone? Very good. So biggest factor could be interest rates. Good job. Interest rate could be one factor. What else can you do? So first thing first is, of course, increasing interest rates. R for interest rates. If interest rates go up, the cost of borrowing goes up. Also, incentive to save goes up, and that's why savings can go up. Number one factor. Number two factors a government can, by the way, can encourage savings is basically to do with making. Sorry, Ahmed, I think your music is playing. Guys, can you make sure that when you are in the class, keep your microphone and everything muted? Okay, sorry. So the second thing we do, guys, is to make sure. Just 1 minute, guys. The second thing we do, guys, is basically to make sure what the government can do is probably come up with some kind of schemes, like some kinds of opportunity to save. A lot of times, this could also be a reason why you could see. Are we good? This could be a reason why you could also see something like this to happen. When you want to encourage savings, you could make people save more, and that could also uh, be done through saving schemes. A lot of time government come up with saving schemes which encourage people to save more. Like, for example, more governments sort of promote what you call it educational sort of schemes. Sometimes they can come up with policies where you can save for the future by doing so. Another way government can sort of go about is that they can reduce taxes. Reduce taxes means more disposable income. More disposable income automatically means more opportunity to save. So you can say that as well. So schemes could be second one. So let's look at next one. Explain two reasons why productivity may increase. Productivity can increase because of better technology. Better technology, or you can say also better technology lead to sort of higher sort of productivity, as you now have uh, a better machinery to work with. Also, more wages can be a reason, but let's look at the most obvious one is basically more training. More wages can basically incentivize you. I agree with it, but I would rather want to sort of look at more training and education that can make my workforce to become more productive. More wages might give you an incentive to work harder. Um, so yeah, so advancement of capital goods, better capital goods, and better technology could be two main reasons. Okay, so better equipment, more investments, like that could be. But then you can also write what is, sorry, who said wages? Yes, Mustafa said this, that even wages, and the way you justify wages could be, better wages means more incentive to work, and that could basically make the productivity go up as well. Are we good? Any questions, guys? Are we good to move on? Okay. Next up is analyze how an increase in investment could influence inflation. So let's look at this one, guys. How can increase in investment? So this is a slightly technical question. And by the way, let's look at the marks as well because I need more space. So 6 marks. How can investment influence inflation? So investment basically is C plus I plus G plus X minus M is your AD, right? So I'm saying how I goes up, can that cause inflation to happen? Well, I go up, AD can go up. And when I go up, AD goes up. We know this, that AD is this, AS is this. And this is my price level of the economy. So when the AD goes up, your price level goes up, and that causes your economy to suffer from inflation because the price level is going up. So higher investment basically causes AD to rise, which can cause basically your demand pull inflation to happen. This is what we call, guys, demand pull inflation. Make sense? There is another argument we could sort of make here, guys, that when your AD is going up, in this case, guys, in your short run might see inflation to happen. A lot of people may disagree with this in the long run context, because in the short run you can say yes, inflation is happening. Because this is like a um, analyze question, you need to also talk about what if this investment is going to cause improvement in your aggregate supply, you know, uh, because in the long run, what we believe is this, that more capital goods or investment could be causing productivity to rise and basically AS to shift out. Makes sense? Aggregate supply could shift out. Why? Because that could basically be good for the economy. So there is a possibility that you might see that there could be um, a, a rise in your aggregate supply curve because of long run productivity increases, and that may actually cause inflation to not happen. Because look at this, guys, your aggregate supply curve, if it shifts to the right, you may see price level to go down. You all with me? Does that make sense, guys? So you may need to basically put both arguments here. One argument is saying yes, inflation will go up because aggregate supply curve will go to the right, and therefore higher AD can cause this to happen. Makes sense? The second argument basically says that what if in the long run that results in productivity to go up? And if that is the case, that could be good. Are we good? Any questions? If you have any questions, you can ask right now. Otherwise, we're good to move on. Okay. Are we good to move on? Okay. The next question that we'll look at is discuss whether or not older workers are paid more than younger workers. So, guys, in this kind of question, older workers are paid more than workers. Most of these questions are like open-ended kind of questions. So, what do you guys think? Older workers, by the way, can be paid more because of, number one, they have more experience. So that's point number one. They have more experience, right? That could be a reason why they can be paid more. Number two, they have higher sort of a training, and they are basically some people who have more skills, and they know the job really well. So will they have more bargaining power? Well, the reason why they have more bargaining power could also be because they bring in knowledge of the job. You know, you being an older worker, you know this, that you are somebody who's been in this job for a long time. So you talk about basically number one point, more experience you have, more training you have. You also are somebody who knows the job really well. And by the way, but when you look at bargaining power, there's a very important question to look at. Is this, that when you are somebody with a lot more experience, are you more employable than a young guy? And the answer is yes. And therefore, you have that bargaining power because you know that you are in high demand than somebody who's starting his job right now. So there is one kind of a thing. Also, from a supply side factor, do you know this, that if you are in this profession for a long time, there are not many like you who are around, so supply is also low. So demand being high, supply being low, give you more bargaining power as compared to other people. Make sense, guys? So this is the argument. First of all, these are the argument why they will be paid more salary. Let's talk about why they might not be paid more salary. If you're an older worker, you might be, like, it might be difficult for you to learn new sort of technology that easily, and therefore you might not be trained that easily. Number two, the fact that you're an older worker, you might not be used to the technology that is changing, so less likely to do a very good job, less likely to change new methods. And similarly, when you are an older worker, you are less likely to be occupationally mobile, which means moving from one occupation to another, or geographically mobile, moving from one area to another, which means you might have a lower bargaining power because you are less likely to move to another profession as compared to another person. Make sense? So one may argue this, that it's not truly the case with the people who are in this profession can be who are it can be argued that older people may not necessarily be getting more salary. Very good job. That's a very good argument. I was saying, productivity may decrease also over time. Your motivation and productivity could also fall. Are we good? Does that make sense? Any questions, guys? Okay, moving on. So we're done with the first two questions, question number 2 and 3. Let's do one more. And I want to skip question number 3 because it's HDI. It's a slightly easy question. Unless you guys want me to discuss number 3. You want me to discuss number 3? Number 4, basically. Siddharth, what are you saying? Should we do number 4? Let's do number 4. Let's just follow the sequence. So the first one is saying identify 2 components of HDI. What are the 2 components of HDI? HDI is simply, takes into account your GDP per capita, but it also looks into 2 more things. It's a very popular measure. So it looks in GDP per capita. It also looks into your life expectancy, how long people live. And it also looks at your education, your educational attainment, as we call it, educational attainment. How many years people go to school. So that's an important element. So, and this is a very popular economic development measure. Human Development Index is basically economic development measure. Okay. So first we mentioned that. HDI means Human Development Index. So one of the ways you can look at whether the country is doing well or not is looking at simply GDP per capita, GDP per person. But now we say this GDP per person is kind of like very limited in its analysis. We need to also look at other things. So from a poor country's perspective, from an economic development perspective, we look at HDI. The HDI number, by the way, is between 0 to 1, where the larger the number, the more developed you are, the lower the number, the less developed you are. So for example, Mali is a developing country. Its HDI rose from 0.297 to 0.442. So things are getting better for Mali. Most of Mali's workers are employed in agriculture, and cotton in the country's largest. So they are very agrarian, agriculture sector. The country's main export is gold, which is great. Gold is doing reasonably well. The country is the 3rd largest exporter of gold in Africa. Okay, let's look at part B then. Explain how the proportion of countries' resources devoted to the primary, secondary, and tertiary sector change as its economy develops. So as you develop, guys, what happens is this, that you go from primary to tertiary. So that is an important factor for development. When you go from primary to tertiary, does that make sense, guys? Are we good? And the reason why this happens is because there is a better technology, more productivity. You'll see developed countries are more educated, and also primary sector incomes are low. These sort of incomes are low as compared to tertiary incomes are high. So we move from the primary sector to the tertiary sector because of that. Make sense? So as your income, so what are the 4 things that we can write here? That first of all, when you go from primary sector to tertiary sector, you're looking at needs for more technology, needs for more education, um, need for more skills. All of this require things are those that are more likely to be for developed economy than developing economy. Um, so that's one thing. In fact, if you look at countries like China, they move from a very agricultural based economy to manufacturing, and now they're all becoming larger in terms of the tertiary sector, the services sector. They're getting into banking and insurance and all that. There could be a possibility tourism is a service sector. That is true. This could be possible that tourism can also rise. Yes. Make sense? Okay. C. Let's look at C because we're running out of time. We need to finish this question quickly. Analyze using demand and supply how fall in the price of cotton would affect the market for cotton shirts. This is easy. Fall in the price of cotton. Cotton is an input to the market shirt. So, guys, if, for example, cotton becomes cheaper, what will happen to the market for cotton shirts? What do you guys think would happen? Anyone? So this is my price and quantity first, and this is my cotton market, cotton shirt market. Supply will increase. Good job. There will be a rise in supply, causing the price to fall. Are we good? Supply will increase. Why? Because they're saying the cotton is becoming cheaper. Cotton is an input, and being a key input, if that becomes cheaper, supply will go down to the right, causing the price to fall. So fall in the price of cotton will make the cost of production to go down, and that will make the price to go down and the quantity to rise. Are we good? Make sense, guys? Do you all agree? Okay, last part, and this one says, discuss whether or not an increase in the size of a country's gold mining industry will benefit an economy. So this is a no, Mustafa. In this question, remember in economics, a fall in price is a result of a rise in supply. Your quantity demanded has gone up. Ahmed, you're going from A to B, so your quantity demanded is going up. Because it became cheaper, people are buying more shirts, but that's called movement along the demand curve. Makes sense, Mustafa? It's not a shift of the demand curve. Okay, good job. Okay, so discuss whether or not an increase in the size of a country's gold mining industry will benefit. Let's look at why it might benefit, and let's look at then why it might not benefit. So why it might benefit if the country's gold mining industry, increase in size of country's gold mining industry. Well, any industry goes, you notice there will be more jobs. You notice there will be therefore lower unemployment, and that basically means the country's productive. Yes, exactly, more employment, more GDP, and therefore more economic growth. So there will be that argument that there will be higher living standard because of higher output, more employment, better job opportunities, and so on. Exactly. There is also an argument that you can make this, that an increase in the gold will basically can make you an exporter of gold, because you are, and that can basically make your trade position go up. Exactly. So balance of payment may go up. Very good point, guys. That could make a country to benefit. Another reason why you could also have sort of higher gold, it's seen that higher gold found could be, or growth in the gold mining industry can also make countries foreign investment to go up. A lot more foreign investment happens in countries which have these resources, which could be good. And lastly, the tax revenue, the government's tax revenue will go up, incomes will go up as there is more GDP. So that tax revenue can also result in us to develop more or better infrastructure. Make sense? So these are 4 or 5 points that you can write about why you feel it could be. So standard of living will increase, more tax revenue, more employment, more income, more exports, and more investment. So these are a lot of points that we can talk about. What about why it might not be good for a country when they discover gold? Well, we can say this, that if there's a rise in the supply of gold, because supply is going up, the prices can go down. And if prices go down, there could be a possibility of lower profitability for gold firms. Makes sense? Higher supply can do that. Very good job. Pollution could be an argument that you can say this, that higher sort of economic activity can lead to more pollution, and that could be damaging for the natural environment, which means there is an externality, a negative externality. The third argument, which is exactly what Siddharth is saying, that there is a possibility, that when you are exploiting resources, you're also causing future generations to be denied of the good. So there is a resource depletion. Remember, this is what we call a good that can be exhausted. So your future generations can basically not benefit from the good because a lot more gold mining is taking place right now. And lastly, you can also talk about this, that um, um, when you are looking at countries that are basically doing gold mining, we also see this, that a lot of times multinationals can exploit these countries, and that could be bad for the countries from a political as well as from other aspects. So there could be argument that is raised against countries, that like when foreign countries start to invest, they lose their autonomy and power to those countries. Make sense? Are we good? So this is a um, very open-ended. So if you look at, guys, just to summarize, we look at 2D, 3D, and 4D. They're very open-ended questions. So a lot of times uh, they require us to be good writers. The way we write matters a lot in these kind of questions. Okay, I'm going to end the class on this note. We still have these 3 more questions to go. I want to do not all of them, but some of them probably next time. And we'll move on to another paper next time, okay? Do you guys have any questions before we end the class?